Also on our politics lead today, campus anti-Semitism in the United States is once again the center of a contentious House hearing, this time the head of Columbia University. As some students say, the school has not done nearly enough to protect them from anti-Semitism. One board member said she's not satisfied with where Columbia is in terms of its campus climate. Back in December, as you may recall, a similar hearing went disastrously wrong for two university leaders, eventually ending with the presidents of Harvard and the University of Pennsylvania resigning. They failed to answer the basic question of whether calling for the genocide of Jews amounts to harassment and anti-Semitism. Columbia University president today, Dr. Minouche Shafik, and other school leaders had a chance to answer that very same question. Here's what they said.
Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Columbia's code of conduct? Mr. Greenwald.
Yes, it does.
Ms. Shipman.
Yes, it does.
Dr. Shafik.
Yes, it does.
And Professor Shizer.
Yes, it does.
Oh, I guess they learned their lesson. Our panel is here. Margaret, do you think that those answers would have been so clear, quick, and definitive had they not been preceded by what happened in
I love
December?
when you started laughing before the question's out of your mouth. And the answer is
I think I knew the
no.
answer, yeah.
But if you read her prepared testimony before she was there in front of the cameras and stuff, there was a passage that really stood out to me, and it said something like, please remember, university presidents are not politicians, which I know was sort of wishful thinking, like that you know, other people get to decide if you're a politician or not. But I think the reason that was sort of baked into the statement was that has been the real problem. You become a university president by virtue of a number of things. It may be your academic experience, your you know, the work you've done for the university, but it's not usually because you have a decades-long record of political training. And at least they have had sort of a crash course in crisis after what happened before. But even so, she ran into some headwinds today.
Yeah, and Megan, Columbia says it's firing one professor hired after he posted support for the Hamas attack on October 7th. Columbia then condemned a tenured professor, Joseph Massad, who described Hamas's October 7th attack as a, quote, stunning victory in an online article. But he still has a job. I mean, tenure still exists. I want you to listen to this exchange with Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of New York.
Massad is still, in fact, listed on the Columbia website as chair of the Academic Review Committee. Are you aware of that?
I would need to check that. I don't want to
it's the
misstate.
website's right
I don't want
here.
to misstate because
So he hasn't been removed as chair.
I would like to
Do you have
confirm
my
that to
commitment
you.
he'll be removed as chair today?
I have my commitment that I will come back to you. and-
You can't say at this hearing that he should be removed as chair? Even though he violates university
Personally, I would
rules?
not want him as chair, and we are looking at the issue of faculty and what
Mr.
we
Greenwald,
expect
do you
from our
think he should be
faculty
removed as
in
chair?
June.
His comments are abhorrent, and I believe that one of the steps that we could take in terms of discipline is to remove him from that leadership position.
Thank you for that direct answer.
So some of the subtext of this is interesting because it's not as easy as a president saying this person is abhorrent and he should be removed as chair, because colleges have all sorts of screwy rules and the faculty to deal with. But Greenwald didn't say he's gone. Greenwald said his comments are abhorrent. I believe that one of the steps we could take in terms of discipline is to remove him from the leadership position. But his answer was much more politic than hers.
Yeah, I mean, just like as Margaret was saying, university presidents have a lot of different stakeholders here that they have to answer to, and they also don't take a lot of crisis comms classes or do this. It's probably the first time they've had any sort of Q&A in a tough setting before. So I do think, I mean, obviously she could have answered much more definitively here, and they, as her co-panelists did.
Yeah, and the thing about Joseph Massad, anybody paying attention to this campus controversy story would know that he wrote that story calling the Hamas attack, you know, praising it as a victory.
That's what Mark.
Months ago, and one would think that the university would say, okay, well, this guy maybe shouldn't be chairing our committee, but, you know.
Yeah, universities are a tough place, Jake, right? And it does, they don't play by the, unfortunately, they don't play by the same rules as the normal world does for some reason in terms of, you know, tenure is guaranteed forever and ever and ever. That's what it means no matter what you do.
Like the Supreme Court.
Like the Supreme Court, exactly. Well, not even the Supreme Court. I think if, you know, the Supreme Court, you get kind of booted if you did something that badly. But the bigger question is, the BDS movement on campus, right, has been existing.
The boycott,
divest, and sanction
of Israel, yeah.
But it's been going on for a long time. One of my good friends ran this organization called Campus Maccabees, right, which kind of tried to battle back and push back on this for years. It's been going on, and he would kind of sound the alarm bell for years and years, and everybody kind of poo-pooed, and it wasn't real. And now we see it in full bursting glory, if you want to say it in that term. But it's on campuses all across America. It's a problem, and we need to figure out why these young people feel it's okay to have these anti-Semitic views.
So, Margaret, I want to play the sound and get your reaction. Another moment from the hearing. Columbia University's president struggled to answer about specific student chants that we've all become quite familiar with since October 7th. Take a listen.
Are mobs shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, or long live the Intifada? Are those anti-Semitic comments?
When I hear those terms, I find them very upsetting. And I have heard...
That's a great answer to a question I didn't ask. Is that fall under definition of anti-Semitic behavior? Yes or no? Why is it so tough?
Because it's a difficult issue.
Maybe I should ask your task force. Does that qualify as anti-Semitic behavior, those statements? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Do you agree with your task force?
Yeah, we agree. The question is
yes.
what.
So the question. So yes, you do agree.
Okay, it's the Intifada, not the Intifada. But in any case,
Close enough.
what do you make of the exchange?
It's interesting. Before this testimony today, a group of about 24 Jewish faculty at the university preemptively published something sort of questioning whether this is really the right theater for these conversations, sort of suggesting that these congressional hearings have been highly politicized, and in the words that I saw around the commentary around this, that it was sort of a trap, that there was a trap for a college president. So I think she walked into the trap on that question, and this is the balancing act. It is not that she isn't sure whether anti-Semitism is okay. That's obviously not what she's struggling with. It is balancing that act between allowing people to express their views, but ensuring that people are physically safe on campus. There are red lines, that genocide is never acceptable when you talk about it. When you're there under the Klieg lights, trying to walk the correct line, it is a highly politicized environment, and that's what you saw her trying to navigate right there.
Difficult stuff. David Urban, Megan Hayes, Margaret Taleff, thank you so much. Appreciate it.